welcome to Go Vote Omaha, presented by the League of Women Voters of Greater Omaha. I'm Jerry Simon, a League member and your host. Each program we talk about important public policy issues. We hope you'll discuss those same issues, and then at election time you'll be ready and willing to go vote. This program we want to talk about updating election equipment and plans for the upcoming 2020 election in both Douglas and Sarpy counties. And to do that, we have two guests with us today. We have Brian Cruz, the Election Commissioner for Douglas County, and Michelle Andal, the Election Commissioner for Sarpy County. So welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I mentioned election equipment, and we know that Nebraska is a paper ballot state. Yay!
Yes.
We're not going to be going to voting machines anytime soon or at all. But there is other behind-the-scenes equipment that we have that supports elections and voting in the counties and in Nebraska. So what kinds of equipment do we have in both your counties that do that to support elections?
Well, I'll just start out and then I'll kind of let Michelle go. But, you know, we like to say in Nebraska that the paper ballot's the gold standard.
Yes.
And clearly it has been. And, you know, in the past decade or so, there's some states, maybe 10 to 15 years, that have gone towards an electronic voting. Georgia, I think Maryland did. But many of those states now are swinging back to the paper ballot, and they're being legislated to do that by their legislatures. So, you know, sometimes change might be slow to come in Nebraska, but sometimes that's not a bad thing. And, you know, now we're kind of the cool kids again, where everybody kind of wants to come back and be like us.
The cool, safe kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as far as the equipment we use, I'll kind of let Michelle talk about that part for a little bit.
We use two different machines. We use electronic tabulators so that once the paper ballots come in, they go through the electronic counting machines. All the information that comes off of those ballots, once they're tabulated, are stored on an air gap or secure safe system. In other words, it's never been connected to the internet. Okay. So all of the results are safe and stored on USB thumb drives that then also go into an air gap computer to be stored before they are electronically published or shared online with any of our municipalities or the public.
Okay.
And then for the ADA requirements, we have the Automark Machines, which we have one at every voting location. And those are the systems that assist people who may have a visual or hearing disability, or perhaps even an inability to manipulate a pencil for the voting machine, and the machine can vote for them. So those are the two electronic versions of what we use.
And the first one you described would be what people would know as an optical scanner, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay,
yep.
for the ballots.
And I think it's important to emphasize what Michelle did. Like I have 9 of those machines in my office. Mm-hmm. None of those machines are connected to each other or to the internet.
Okay, okay. And so they are always under you have your eyes on them at all times in terms of security.
Yes,
for
and they're
machines.
in secure locations.
Okay.
And whenever they're in use, we always have a permanent staff member in there.
Okay.
And there's always multiple checks on many levels.
Okay. Well, let's talk more about the Automark machine a little bit. That's one of the older pieces of equipment, right? That's going to really need to be updated. So do you want to, how many does Douglas County have and how many does Sarpy County have?
So we, like Michelle said, we have to have one per polling place. We have 236 precincts currently in Douglas County, but we have more than that. I think we actually have about 255. Okay. So we have some replacements and things of that nature. But yes, they will be replaced, which will be good news, because if anybody's ever used one or seen one, you know, at the time they had them, I think they were probably wonderful technology, and they were great, but they are 15 plus years old. Okay. They're bulky, they're big, and quite frankly, you're not still using a microwave or a TV that's 15 years old, most likely. So,
most likely. Will it be the same machine that you will, or the same type of machine, or are there other alternatives?
It will be the same type of machine. The new technology will be a lot lighter and easier to use. In Sarpy County, we currently have 80 machines with 53 voting precincts. Okay. And so we will probably be looking to get about 55. Some exciting news is that the state has approved in the governor's budget, which he signed on Monday, funding to replace all of those.
Okay, great.
So,
in all the counties there?
Yes, in every county. And one of the nice things about that with replacing the Automarks is many of our poll workers are of an older age, and asking them to lift, we weighed one usually usually just last week, we weighed one, and asking someone to lift a 79-pound machine to get it onto a table
That might take two
is,
people.
yes.
Yeah,
those 2 people.
exactly.
So replacing them will be a great option for the state.
Okay, okay, great. So are there any other ways or better ways to support voters with disabilities in polling places or even for early voting?
Well, you know, one of the things is we have these machines, or we'll have a machine similar to this, but then voters always have the option to do a by-mail ballot to where they can request the ballot come to their home. And if they need assistance from a family member or a friend or a neighbor, they can do that. There's a voter's assistance oath that they need to fill out, but that is always an option
Okay.
for them. They can also come to our office and early vote, because we always have one of these machines in the
Right.
office, or they can bring someone with them again to assist them.
Okay.
So-
And that's true in both counties then?
Yes, we have the same options available. Additionally, not all voters know this, and we exercise this with, we ask people to be thoughtful when they ask for this option, but there is an option to do curbside voting. If you absolutely haven't had time to get in to do early voting, and election day comes, and you just are not able to get out of your vehicle, but you can get to the polling site, we can do curbside voting.
Okay.
There are some stipulations that go with that. It does include in stopping the entire voting process for everyone inside the polling site to do that. So we always ask people to exercise that option with care, and but if it's something they need, we are happy to do it.
Okay. So is anything special needed, thinking about Nebraska voters who might be in the military and who maybe are serving overseas? Is there anything special there in terms of equipment? Do they vote over the internet in that case?
Not over the internet.
Right, they
Okay.
don't vote over the internet. They can
Okay.
apply, and we can email them their ballots. We can email
Okay.
them or fax them, and in fact, probably 95% of the ballots we send in Douglas County to military folks are via email. Now,
Okay.
they have to print out the ballot and a series of other paperwork and then return it to us via the United States mail.
Okay.
And the same stipulations apply to them as anybody. They have to be in our possession by 8 PM on election night.
And they have to use physical mail, the actual
Yes.
mail. They can't like scan them and send ballots back. I mean, that probably wouldn't be secure, so.
No, we cannot. They
Okay.
have a few, very few exceptions for that. If you're on a submarine, or there
Yeah.
are very few, but otherwise it has to be mailed in.
Okay.
You can get an exception, like she said, to send it back via email, but it has to go through the Secretary of State's office, and then they do some, I think, information security checking before they'll
Verification.
allow that to happen.
Okay, well, that kind of brings us to, speaking of secretaries of state.
Yes.
The former Secretary of State in
Yes.
2017 created a task force
Correct.
that you served on, and
Yes.
League of Women Voters
Correct.
members were on, and other state officials and folks interested in elections, to look at elections and what was needed in Nebraska. And what I wanted to ask you about there was that what have they suggested, or what was suggested by that task force about election equipment?
Sure.
And what we might need
So I
here?
think there were some overarching themes from that. One was that our equipment needed to be replaced. While it was still operational and voters had nothing to be concerned about, it definitely would need to be replaced in the near future. A couple of the other themes is they felt like the state should pay for it. And also going along with that is, one of the reasons they requested the state to pay for it is because then we have a uniform system of voting for voters across the state of Nebraska to make it fair and equitable. Because in some states, each county or each jurisdiction, you may have different vendors, you may have different types of voting and things like that. And, you know, especially like us, where if you're in the same media market or you're getting your information out through the same outlets, if you have different types of equipment or different things that you're doing, it can be very confusing to voters. So, you know, one of the things that they did touch on in that report was the possibility of all-mail elections.
Right.
You know, Secretary Gale did say in the report with some reservation, and there would have to be some major changes in order to make Nebraska an all-by-mail state. You know, and I think one of the things that really would need to be considered is, I know in the state of Colorado that their early voting rate by mail, I know it was at least 70%, and I think closer to 80% before they kind of went over, flipped over
Yes.
to all mail.
Yes.
And in Douglas County, we're about a third right now. So, it's just not prudent at this point to, really think about all by mail in Douglas County, to be honest, because we have 2/3 of our individuals who are still voting
the
at the
polling
polling place.
Now, what about Sarpy County? Did you find the same thing about that percentage of voters
We
who
currently
do
have
early voting?
25% of our voters that generally ask
Okay.
for an early voting ballot. And so to switch over, the luxury that we have now is we are able to offer all voters
Absolutely.
the option to vote how they want to vote. If someone wants to go to the poll place, they can. If they want to early vote, if they want assisted. If we were to switch to all mail, the situation then is we only have 25% of people that are interested in doing that right now. And when you switch over and completely switch to an all mail election system, then you've taken 75% of your engaged polling place workers, voters, and taken away the way that they like to vote. So right now, anyone who wants to vote by mail is able to.
Right.
And anyone who wants to vote at a polling place
Can still
has
do
that.
so, okay. And
Exactly.
in Colorado, I thought you said the experience of that, as the percentage gets higher, that may
Yes.
be the experience in your counties as well as we go forward.
Well, that's
And
right.
2020 may be very telling in
Right.
terms of increasing that percentage.
It very
Would you
well
say?
could be. Yeah,
Okay.
it very well could be. We'll see what happens.
Okay, okay. Well, so what would you say is the most urgent need for replacing equipment in your counties? And you said that in the budget, the Automark Machines, there'll be money to replace those. Besides those, what else might be needed, and is there budgeted money to do those replacements?
The optical scanners and the Automark, for us, that is basically what we need. The machinery and the technology is very antiquated at this point for where we're at. The last time they purchased machines was 15 years ago. And some of them, you have to get them patched together. They work fine when they're working. It's kind of a working or not. There's never an error when they are working, but there are times when you're down to 2 machines instead of 3. So it's just important to be able to rely on the technology that we need to process the election.
Right, exactly. And I was going to say, people probably remember in the 2016 presidential general, I had 2 of the older machines go down. Well, we took them out of service, actually,
Okay.
because they were jamming all the time. So if we get the new machines, we hope to be done earlier than 5:30 in the morning, but we don't want to give any delusions because we
Sure.
have more registered voters, and if we get a higher turnout,
Of course.
it's
course.
still, we're not going to be done by the 10 o'clock news, I'll tell you that. We'll still
Right.
be going until probably
Right.
3 o'clock, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
But these are quicker election results than in the past, even the near
Correct.
past.
Oh,
so,
yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
The motto of the office, though, is when it comes to an election, do you want it fast or do you want it right?
Yes,
And so-
Accuracy is important.
Yes.
I'm sure if it came down to the worst case that equipment completely failed, you can have the vote, hand
of
count.
course, of course.
We always hope that doesn't come to
Of
pass.
course,
Yes.
of course.
But
But
yes.
it is the fail-safe,
Yeah.
basically,
Absolutely.
backup
And we
plan.
say, always will never, never, never compromise speed for accuracy.
Yeah, and that's where, again, the paper ballots is like.
Absolutely,
let it
gold
have it.
standard.
Exactly, exactly. Well, what about any new equipment? I mean, some places, and I knew there had been some talk in the legislature a little bit about going to electronic poll books. Do you want to, is that something that you would foresee for either of your counties? Do you think that's a good idea, or what do you think?
I don't believe there was not money in the budget for them at this point in time.
Right.
I honestly haven't studied them that much. I know that there are quite a few jurisdictions that do use them. I don't know if the state, again, it would be a statewide
Right.
purchase, so I don't know where the state would land on electronic poll books. We're pretty happy that we got the money for the new equipment we
Sure.
got, so we don't want to be too greedy.
Sure,
But yes, it's probably something at least worth exploring.
Okay.
And we kind of have the same feeling in Sarpy County. It's something that we wouldn't be opposed to if there is proven research that they're reliable, secure.
Secure security, yeah,
security.
that would be an issue.
Because those would have to possibly, we don't totally understand the technology yet of how it works, because there have been some products where they say that they can be used via the internet, or you want to make sure that your system is secure. And to be honest, our paper poll books at this time work quite well and efficiently. What most people may not realize is that every poll book in the state of Nebraska has an electronic barcode. So it is pretty quick once we get those back to the office to make sure that everyone is given their voter credit, and to make sure that someone hasn't voted in place of someone. You can scan those quite quickly. So
Okay.
it's sometimes technology is great, but sometimes paper is great. It causes you to slow down and really look over,
Yeah.
make sure that everything is in the poll book that should be in there. And
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we want to remind our viewers that you're listening to the League of Women Voters Go Vote Omaha, and our guests are Michelle Andal, and the election commissioner from Sarpy County, and Brian Cruz, election commissioner from Douglas County. Something that, well, early voting, we talked about how it's changed, and what do you foresee for 2020? Do you see it being used more? I mean, you, Brian, instituted a new system that had been used by Lancaster County. I think, do you want to talk about that?
So what we instituted in Douglas County is what Lancaster County's had for about 20 years. And basically, voters are given the opportunity to sign up on essentially an early voting request list. What that means is if they sign up on this list, we will send those particular voters a green postcard in Douglas County. They simply look over their information, sign it, and send it back, or they correct the information and send it back. Because state law still says you have to request a ballot, so we have to have
Before
the-
each election.
Yes, before each election, so we have to get their signature on that.
Right.
We started our list last summer. We have over 30,000 voters on that list already, which we're happy about. We'd like to build that list up more, because one of the things that we'll do, and one of the reasons I did it in Douglas County, is because we had about 95,000 requests for early voting in the last presidential general. I'm estimating will be over 100,000 early voting requests in this 2020 presidential election. But it helps us control our workload and our workflow, because we will send those green postcards out mid-February and then early August.
Okay.
And so once the voters get those, the sooner we get those back, the sooner we can process those. And then the first day we're able to send ballots out, we'll have many more ballots that we can send out. And we know from statistics that we've kept that the sooner voters get their ballots in their hand, they get them back to us. So again, we're doing our workload on the front end instead of the back end. Now, the really great thing about that for us is, by law, we can count all of those ballots on Monday before election on Tuesday. We can't report the results or tabulate them. So the more that we can count on Monday, the quicker the results will come on Tuesday, and the less stress, not only at the polling places, but on our county machines on Tuesday.
Okay. What about Sarpy County? Are you thinking about instituting the same kind of list?
yeah,
or-
I've started looking at that. I was appointed to the position just a little over 18 months ago, so that's given me time to kind of get into the office and see what's working and what things we can improve on for the voters. One of the differences between Douglas County and Sarpy County is every general election, we mail a early voting application to every eligible registered voter. So it's
Okay.
almost an automatic early voting application for every single person that's eligible.
Right.
For the primary, we do not do that. However, if we make a change for polling place, or if we think there is anything that would affect or impede a voter from finding their polling location, we also send those precincts early voting applications. So it's something we looked at. We were really liking what we're seeing with Brian's program, and in time, after studying how they do and working together on those results, then it's something that we are definitely kind of considering.
Okay. But I'm also hearing you say that the early voting, it changes your needs in terms of staffing and workload. So do you foresee that really changing things in terms of what you need at polling places in 2020?
Not so much in terms of polling places. What I'm really hoping the list will do for me is really be able to determine when I will need more people in the office. And I believe with my whole heart, and that's one of the main reasons that, well, I did it for two main reasons. One, convenience for voters.
Right.
But two, if we can control the workload and when we need individuals in our office, I'm hoping to really cut down on overtime for two reasons. Our staff was working literally 18-hour days to get these processed, and it was just, it was so hard on the staff and the temporary staff. And also the overtime, that's tax dollars. So we're
Right.
really hoping to manage that portion of it more efficiently for the taxpayers of Douglas County.
Okay. And when people return their early, they can either vote in person early at your,
Yep.
the election commission office, or they can mail their ballot back or use a drop box. So let's talk about, you've increased the number of drop boxes, I think, in Sarpy County.
Sarpy County had one.
Yes.
We're very proud of that single drop box.
Yes.
For many years, and it was a wonderful asset to help voters. And this year, we added 3 more throughout the county. We have one
Great.
in Gretna, we have one in Bellevue, and we have another one now at the courthouse. But all 4 of our drop boxes currently are drive-up accessible. So not only can you drop it
Great.
off 24 hours a day, you are able, if you're not able to get out of your car, to
Just
take your
drive it.
ballot and put it outside of your window of your car and drive away.
Okay.
They are secure, they are checked every single day during early voting, and we had amazing turnout. Gretna was our top user of their drop
Drop box,
box
that's
for the
great.
last
Okay.
primary, and we had so many voters that contacted us and said that they just appreciated, because a lot of people like getting the ballot in the mail, but then they like to know that it made it back.
Yes, yes, and people can do that. You can check online to see that your ballot was returned if
Absolutely.
you have a question about that.
Absolutely.
Now, Douglas County only had the one drive-up drop
We
box.
only have the one drive-up drop box.
But-
We have 10. We're trying to look at other options for drive-up drop boxes. But one I think that we're going to be able to accomplish pretty easily is at the Fitzgerald home at 156th and Maple.
Uh-huh.
I have one kind of, it's hidden a little bit, but people are getting to know it over by the engineer's office. But the treasurer's office has moved out there. And
Yes.
there's a new entrance.
Okay.
And so I just talked to Public Properties yesterday and said, we got to get that drop box moved over there where the people are.
Yeah.
And I said, we need to make it a drive-up drop
Yes.
box.
Okay.
So we're working on that.
Okay, so drive-up, do you ever foresee going to people can actually drive up to a window at all and place their ballot at the commission office?
You know,
Like a drive-through
Maybe to
kind of
drop
thing?
it off, but that's quite an investment to ask the county to
Yeah.
build in a drive-up window.
Right.
And then if people were to stop and want to vote in a drive-up, like the convenience of a McDonald's, then you have
Sure.
a line, because we never hurry voters. As long as they're not impeding other voters that are polling
Exactly.
place, they can sit there for 2 hours. But if you're at the drive-up, we have to make the time count and make the numbers move so that all people can have the opportunity.
Yeah.
I feel the same.
I do, and we're getting a new facility, and it's just,
Talk about that a little bit. Can you let our viewers know what's
Of
going to happen
course.
in terms of your new location?
so sure. So from literally almost the first day I walked in the door, I contacted Mary Ann Borgeson, who was chairwoman of the county board at that time, and we started working on the project. They had worked on it on and off with my predecessors over the years. But the good news is, after almost 2.5 years, we negotiated a new space and different things, and the board voted for it. So our new facility will be at 121st and West Center Road. So if you know where Nobby's is,
Yes.
it's just directly west of Nobby's, and it's on the north side of the road across from basically Burlington Coat Factory.
Okay, and plenty of parking at that
Lots
location.
of parking. We have 38 parking spots. Currently, we'll have over 200. It's so much easier to find. There's a stoplight there, center,
Bus line's right
120th,
there.
bus line is right there.
Good.
Absolutely. So it'll be so much better for the voters of Douglas County.
Great.
So we're very excited about that. We hope to be doing business out of there after Labor Day.
Wonderful.
They've started to tear up some of the carpet in there and take some of the ceiling tiles down, so the construction is beginning. It most recently was a temporary home of the Heaphy Mortuary. It was on that west end.
Okay.
So some of their rooms will be able to reutilize with some minor adjustments. Obviously, some we can't. But it'll be a beautiful, I'm going to tell you, it will be a
Great.
beautiful facility for the voters of Douglas County.
Great. And Michelle, now your office is Papillion, so, and did you
Yes.
just do some remodel or some expansion?
No, we didn't.
No?
So I have to say, Brian and I have been friends for a long time. We're not competitive in this business, but I have a little bit of building envy.
Okay.
We're hoping to take our commissioners down to show him their buildings someday and see if we can maybe have
Nudge
an
him a little bit in
expansion
that.
too. But
Okay.
we're very excited for them because
Okay.
it sounds like it will be an amazing
Oh.
facility.
Great. Well, we just have a few minutes left.
Yeah.
Why don't you both, if you want to just speak a little bit about any other changes you'd like voters to know about for 2020 to prepare themselves?
Sure. So, we try, my deputy and I always try and get out and talk about polling place changes. We never
Yes.
like to do it, but in the normal course of business, when you have 225-ish polling places, we can't force private entities to do it. We can encourage them, we ask them to, but we always have some that drop out. It's about 10% historically. So once we make those changes, we'll publish it in the newspaper, we send all those voters a card, we'll go out to that area of the community, whether it's North Omaha, Millard, South Omaha, we'll go to those organizations. So just be looking for that. Now, one important note is polling places cannot change between the primary and the general unless
That's
there's a
good to know.
natural disaster or
Okay,
something of
okay.
that nature.
Okay.
The other thing is, just always want to encourage voters, make any changes if you've moved, you've changed your name, you've changed your, address, or you want to change your party. Do all that now or as soon as you're able, so you don't have to stand in lines, or you don't do it accidentally, or something happens. So
And the
any,
voter can go online to make those changes.
absolutely.
Okay.
So any questions or changes that voters want to make, we'll encourage them to do that now. Anyone that's not registered to vote, now's the year to do it.
Yes, it is. Okay. And real quickly, Michelle, anything for Sarpy County that
Sarpy
you want
County?
voters to know?
We're going to have new extended hours. The 2 weeks prior to the election, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we will be open from 8 in the morning until 7 at night, so that
Great.
those working people can get in there, and the Saturday before from 9 to 2. And the only other thing, same thing, is for everyone to always be prepared and
Okay.
know what the election dates are.
And you can use blue or black pens.
Yes, that's correct.
There's some people at the last
I know,
election.
I
so
know. Blue or
anyway.
black ink pen is great.
Okay. Well, thank you both for being here with us and appreciate it. For the League of Women Voters, I'm Jerry Simon, reminding you to inform yourself about the issues. And at election time, go vote, Omaha. We're good. Yay.